Good evening and welcome to Electronic Game Information and our Quarant-Egi version of the show, coming to you live from remote headquarters in beautiful Northeast Los Angeles, California. We have a wonderful show for you tonight. Plenty of discussions, plenty of issues, plenty of video games on the board. Looking at them, feeling them here. Yes, but first, we have a rare thing, and this is an EGI exclusive. This is new to the show. This has never been done before here on Electronic Game Information, but it must be done, and it is an EGI retraction. So this is an issue that we had because of a video that we presented to you last episode that talked about the wonderful Night Dive Studios being in charge of the ODT Escape or Die Trying franchise and the probable remaster of that very interesting, very controversial game. Unfortunately, that video that we showed to you that said that Night Dive Studios now controlled the franchise is actually controlled by Pico Interactive. Pico Interactive, this is an EGI exclusive apology to Pico Interactive, the publishers of a number of very interesting re-releases and remasters, and I'm not sure what you would call it. They've done things such as re-release a wonderful game, Impossible. Impossible, of course, was the action platformer from the TurboGrafx 16. They re-released it on the Atari Jaguar, which was I think a very interesting choice. The kind of decision that I like to think that I would have if I controlled the Impossible franchise, which Pico Interactive does, as including the franchise that they now control, Escape or Die Trying. Escape or Die Trying, of course, built on a much shakier foundation than Impossible, because it was an earlier game that attempted to sort of fuse the sci-fi action and fantasy adventure genres into a fully 3D third-person and action adventure game. It's not the best game. Maybe it can be fixed. I don't know if it can be fixed. Maybe Pico Interactive are the people to do it. I would like to think that if they're not, that they would be willing to sell the rights for ODT or Escape or Die Trying to Night Dive Studios, the people that we said originally controlled the franchise currently. But that is not the case. Unfortunately, Night Dive Studios does not control that franchise, does not control the ability to remaster that for current generation consoles, for PC, Steam, good old games, the whole nine yards. The Night Dive Studios team, very talented, very, very, very talented. We are so sorry that we said that you did something that you didn't do. And to Pico Interactive, we are sorry that we said that you didn't do something that you did do. And by that thing, I mean purchase ODT, Escape or Die Trying. Now, turning to Night Dive Studios, I would like to use this as a platform now that we have your attention, because we're talking about this wonderful company and all the wonderful developers at that company. And not to say the people at Pico Interactive aren't wonderful, but Power Punch 2, 8 Eyes, Soccer Kid, all these games are just not the same, in the same caliber as games like Turok 2, Shadow Man, System Shock 2, et cetera, all those wonderful Night Dive Studios of remastered franchises that are coming out at lightning speed. I mean, these people just cannot be, their ambitions cannot be contained. So I would like to use this as a platform to ask them very nicely to please consider doing a full remaster of Turok 3 Shadow of Oblivion, and also codename Tanka. So please consider remastering these games. Please consider remastering ODT Escape or Die Trying. I'd like to see what you could, if you could fix that game, which of course it did, sort of a 4 or 5 out of 10 game, as opposed to something like Codename Tenka, which is a 7 out of 10 first-person shooter game originally released on the PlayStation. Still relatively well, from what I understand. Could do with a remaster, could do with a few tweaks here and there, probably some volumetric lighting effects, fog effects, etc. Codename Tenka. So happy to be talking about Codename Tenka here on Electronic Game Information. from Pico Interactive, we hope that for Pico Interactive, we hope that you consider merging with Night Dive Studios and merging the IPs that you've purchased over the years to create these collectible editions of games like Soccer Kid and Super Noah's Ark 3D. And if you put Pico and Night Dive together, you could have a wonderful company that could take on such incredibly dormant franchises as Armorines, an incredibly dormant franchise originally released on the Nintendo 64 and PlayStation using the Turok 2 engine, much like Turok 2 the Turok 2 that we know and love. Armorines, of course, was a game that had a lot of issues, mostly that it wasn't Turok 2, but maybe a company like Night Dive mixed with Pico could create something unique, could take the reins of this franchise, return it to glory. If it never had glory, then give it the glory. You could make it better. You can make these things better. It is possible to take old games and increase their quality. You don't have to just re-release them as is. Armorines, of course, has a subtitle which is Project Swarm. Now, I've never figured out what the acronym SWARM is. Project is not part of the acronym. That's an actual word, project. So SWARM is the acronym. So it's actually Project SWARM. And we don't. After maybe an hour of searching online, I was not able to find it. So we can only assume that the Project Swarm actually means sentries with arms and reticles, aiming reticles. Arms, of course, being a double meaning for arm, that holds the gun, and the gun itself, the arm. Sentries with arms and reticles, making a better life for others. So that's Armorines Project Swarm on the Nintendo 64. Have your RAM pack ready. If you don't own a RAM pack, go out and grab you a RAM pack so you can get that extra resolution bump that you get from having that installed in your Nintendo 64. Night Dive Studios, please consider remastering Mace Griffin Bounty Hunter. Mace Griffin Bounty Hunter is a game, a very, very solid 6 out of 10 first-person shooter with space flying segments seamlessly integrated into the on-foot missions that the Mace Griffin must undertake. He must undertake the mission. He must fly to outer space. He must survive. But he also is a bounty hunter, so he must survive while also making money in the process. We also hope that if Night Dive or Pico Interactive or some merger of these two companies does happen, and they take on, these are all hypotheticals. These haven't happened, but if they were to happen, I would hope that they would consider in their remaster of Mace Griffin Bounty Hunter to take the Mace Griffin that was released with the game, the character model, and just put the hat back on, because there was supposed to be a hat on Mace Griffin, and they took the hat off and they just gave him a regular old head, and wouldn't have been fun to have the hat with the cape, and that, so he looks kind of almost like Red Steel, the Red Steel 2 character, with a kind of not quite the same, not a duster like in that wonderful waggle and point your controller at the screen first-person shooter on the Nintendo Wii, but certainly would be hopefully for your consideration, bring it to market and find out. So last bit of news, Red Dead Redemption 2 is finally out on Xbox Game Pass. So I will be switching I will be switching over to the Xbox Red Dead Redemption 2 as opposed to the PlayStation 4 Red Dead Redemption 2, which I have not finished yet because I was very upset to find that it was incredibly difficult to do game time tracking on the PlayStation 4. Xbox One does have occasional game time tracking, so we're going to bring you some follow-ups to that revelation. And that was the news. So let's check in with EGI special correspondent and fan of the show, Alan Resnick. Alan, how are you doing tonight?
Good, Robbie. I respect the hell out of you.
I respect the hell out of you, Alan, because as an EGI special correspondent, times are tough.
Yes.
We don't have the same infrastructure around us that we used to have. We don't have this is sort of like this is a demaster. We're talking earlier in the show about remasters of wonderful games like Armorines and Mace Griffin Bounty Hunter, and this is sort of a demaster of those, of not of those games, but of electronic game information.
I just want to point out there's a bit of confusion in the chat right now. KP Sentai Snowbees, several of the chatters have alerted me to it looks like a Home Depot receipt on your background. And many of them have made the very good point of, you can go to Home Depot, why can't you go and visit your friend Alan?
Well, that's a great question, Alan. Well, because at Home Depot you can do contactless pickup. So if you need things like what I need from Home Depot, which has been mostly grass, sod. So we've been planting sod in the yard, and so I needed that. And contactless pickup means that the wonderful people down at the Home Depot in Cypress Park, Montecito Heights Home Depot can bring the sod to the car without any human interaction, and it's all done online besides the sod in the car.
Well, there's a lesson in that. And I think we can have a contactless hangout. You and me, I could come over, or you could come over here, and I've put myself together. I'm being very professional, and I'm going to be very safe when we hang out, and we don't even need to be really touching. It can be sort of a almost but not quite.
Alan, I must say that unfortunately that although I do respect the hell out of you and everything
I respect
that you do
the hell out of you.
Show, we do respect the hell out of Alan Resnick, but unfortunately we just can't trust we can't trust people anymore. We can trust the contactless pickup at Home Depot, but we cannot trust EGI special correspondence, because when you're getting the news, when you're getting the things that you need the most out of
Robbie,
when you're researching the topics, when you're bringing us the special reports, we know that you're getting into the down and dirty of the world, and we can't trust. And you can't trust. It's much like peroxide.
This is hydrogen peroxide and alcohol, and I'm going to wipe down my whole body, even my the parts, the guy parts, and
the problem is,
it's going to be clean.
We've spent so much time in parts that it's almost as if we don't even know if you were. I'm looking at you here on electronic game information on AdultSwim.com, but I can't. You can't promise me that you'll be the same person when you show up.
No, Robbie, it will be me. You can ask me anything that only I would know, and you can verify that it's me. I'm going to be super safe with the mask.
Of course, The Thing, the third-person action game where you explore Antarctica and you lose trust in your fellow man as you brave the alien invasion in the snow and the ice and the dark of night in that incredible territory that we all know is the last remaining undiscovered continent, Antarctica.
Absolutely.
We have not figured out what's going on there. As soon as we can get there, we'll figure it out. We'll burn it down, and
if you can beat the game, we can beat this thing, and we can hang out in a safe way. I don't want anyone out there to be irresponsible. I don't want to be irresponsible. I just want to have a little quality time with my best bud. Let's do a virtual fist bump.
Unfortunately,
something we've never done.
Fist bump, because I understand that it would be interrupted immediately by a new segment. We have a new segment alert with EGI special correspondent Alan Resnick.
That's right. Wow. Okay. Wow. A new segment alert. How exciting is that?
So tell us a little bit about the new segment. Tell us.
The new segment is Alan explains specific post-merger Square and/or Enix non-playable characters, Tonberry edition.
Tonberry
with special correspondent me.
Wait, so
Alan Resnick.
Can you explain exactly what the title means?
Yes, so the title means Alan explains specific post-merger Square and/or Enix non-playable character, Tonberry edition. So I'm just going to be explaining this non-playable.
What's the S?
Square. That's Square. Square is a company.
Square is a company. There's two companies. Well, they're now a larger company, aren't they?
Well, that's yes, and yes. So part of my report is specifically about Mr. Tonberry.
Okay. Before you get into Tonberry, I just want to point out that we are discussing these companies. One company that has merged, two companies that have merged, that's Square and Enix, and two companies that have not merged, being Night Dive and Pico.
No, this is about the company Square and Enix merging.
We're not condoning any sort of mergers between Square and Enix because they've already happened. Take it away, Al.
They've already merged, and and I'm focusing on Tonberry, who's a character from the Square side of the merger. Mr. Tonberry, I presume. You heard right. I'm talking about the one and only Tonberry, an adorable but deadly reoccurring enemy from the Final Fantasy series. Tonberry is not just one character, but that's actually the name of a kind of creature called the Tonberries.
Oh my God! Look, there's 6 of them. Is that 5 or 6?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Tonberries.
Incredible! How did they get that many Tonberries onto one screen? You ask.
I don't know. That's a question for the employees on the Square side of the Square Enix merger, because as far as I could tell, Tonberries have never occurred on an Enix. They occurred in Final Fantasy, which started with Square.
Are Tonberries the slime of the Final Fantasy franchise? You know how the slime is sort of the emblematic Dragon Quest.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. But Tonberry is cute, like a slime. It is a cute kind of Japanese character. Wears a little hood. Is it
cute because it's Japanese, Alan? Because I think that's a fairly problematic statement.
I wouldn't say a thing like that. I don't say problematic things. I mean, it is cute it is in the style of, it is from Japan, and it is cute, and it was made by a Japanese company, Square. So it's just,
Square Enix.
Square first, and then merged. Then there was a merger that happened, and the merger was actually the result of a failed film called The Spirits Within, which I went to see with my father in theaters, and I thought it was quite a magnificent film. But apparently,
quite a magnificent film. What was that? What was it? What happened?
Well,
what happened in the movie?
James Woods was in the movie, and they spent a lot of money animating James, trying to get the mannerisms of James Woods perfectly animated, and it cost them more money. People didn't see. I saw it with my dad. I don't know, and I loved it, but other people didn't love it. They didn't see it, and this game company touched their toes into Tinseltown, and they tripped, and they splashed in the pool, and they didn't make money. But anyways, back to Tonberry. He wears a hood, and he carries a lantern and a knife. And you got to be careful because of that knife. Tonberry made his first appearance in Final Fantasy V and has been in every Final Fantasy game since.
Now, Final Fantasy V is the one that was that the one that introduced the jobs system, or was that Final Fantasy III? Being the real Final Fantasy III, not Final Fantasy VI. I always get those two mixed up, 3 and 5. I think it's the numbers. They're 3 and 5 are very similar numbers when you really break them down.
Yes, 3 and 5 are close. And Final Fantasy V, I don't know about what it introduced, about jobs, but it introduced Tonberry. And people went nuts for Tonberry, so Tonberry kept showing up. And I guess you could say there isn't much to talk. That's all you can say about Tonberry, and there's not much else to talk about Tonberry.
Lunar Pangolin in the chat says...
Back to you, Robbie.
Back to you, Alan. Lunar Pangolin says, I forgot James Woods was in that movie. Always too distracted by Steve Buscemi, Alec Baldwin, and Ving Rhames. I mean, what a blockbuster cast that was.
And I think it might be worth getting that gang back together and see if they wanted to do a follow-up and maybe not even do it in 3D anymore, because real life has kind of caught up to graphics.
And obviously we could just shoot in sort of a sound stage and have the gang hang out and get into trouble, go on lots of adventures, spend some time. That's the problem with Final Fantasy Spirits Within, is because as I recall, it's, no time was spent, just the characters just hanging out, shooting the breeze, going through their inventories, and figuring out what they should sell, they should drop, or what they should upgrade. If they had any upgrades that they could put, like materia, that they could put into their weapons.
That would be great if they had materia. And I don't even know if there is a problem with that movie, but I think if they added the addition of maybe a Tonberry, that would have been a fun little thing. And I think, maybe you could have voiced the Tonberry.
I think that the voice of the Tonberry has to be deep. It has to be hard and long. It has to be just like a voice from out of the ether.
Can you do the voice?
Robbie,
do the voice.
I can't. All right. Well, let's see. What's the kind of thing a Tonberry would say? Tonberry comes across this just in. Tonberry comes across the adventurers from Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. Ving Rhames, Alec Baldwin, Steve Buscemi, and James Woods. Take it away, Tonberry.
Okay. So
Tonberry says, "What's up? Why are you in my woods? Did you just leave the bar to come into my woods to use the bathroom because the bathroom in the bar was full?" And now you can be all the other characters.
And James Woods would have said, "Yes, I left. The bathroom was full, so that's why I left."
All four of you. So both the men's room and the women's room were full, and if there was a unisex bathroom, you weren't gonna even. I guess you wouldn't even try. So you came out into my woods. We assume Tonberry lives in the woods, don't we, Alan?
We do assume that about Tonberry.
Okay, so Tonberry's very upset that all of these adventurers are using the restroom in the woods. Maybe they're sort of getting they're making a big mess of all of his potted plants.
Yes. Do you want me?
So
I want.
Tonberry says you guys are making a big mess of my potted plants. So it's time for you guys to sober up, ship out. You are some sort of space marine fantasy force, much like the fantasy sci-fi space marine crossover characters in Escape or Die Trying, the wonderful remastered third-person action-adventure game from Pico Interactive.
And now I'm gonna do James Woods. And I'm gonna do a better job.
Hey, I don't give one damn about whose woods I'm in. I piss where I want, man. So back off.
Hey, man, look, I've dealt with a lot of things in my life. I'm a little guy. I've always been small. I've always had the lantern and the knife, and I've just patrolled my potted plants from the moment that I was a smaller Tonberry to the much more normally sized Tonberry that I am now. So I am not going to take any guff from you drunks, because when you come into the woods, you have to respect the fact that these woods could have been around for hundreds of millions of years. And the fact that you are just coming out here doing whatever you want just instills in me the fact that you people, you adventurers, don't really give a damn about the environment, that you don't care about my life, that you're very self-centered is the issue here. So I would like for you guys to head on out.
And then James Woods, and then Steve Buscemi says, "I guess there's a spirit within Tonberry and everything, including Mother Earth."
Yes, and it's also called mana. So back to you, Alan. What a wonderful report on Tonberry.
Thank you.
Let's take a quick break, and then we will be right back with more of our living coverage. It's EGI's exclusive living coverage of Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning right here on Electronic Game Information. Don't miss a beat. We'll be right back. And we are back. We're back with our exclusive coverage of Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. Guys, exclusive living coverage of Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. What a game. Huge, vast, we cannot, unfortunately, be covering it anymore this evening because we have a brand new segment coming up. It's an official brand new EGI segment coming right now. So let's hear that new segment alert is coming through the pipeline as we speak.
I can't. What's the new segment?
Alan, the new segment is called Vehicle Levels. Alan, it's going to be a recurring segment on electronic game information, an EGI exclusive, never been before seen or done here on the show. Electronic game information on AdultSwim.com. It's vehicle levels from all of the wonderful games that are otherwise different types of games that don't say the word vehicle in the title or don't imply right off the bat that there's going to be vehicles.
Talk about an exciting segment.
So this is an exciting new segment. So we're not going to be doing any sort of vehicle segments in games like Burnout or Sega Rally Championship 2 or the Tokyo Extreme Racers. It's going to be exclusively games that are different types of games other than vehicle games.
So no cars, no driving in the title.
No, there's going to be cars, there's going to be driving, there's going to be action, there's going to be adventure, but not in the title. This is exclusively games that have segments that include vehicles, but are not vehicle games. So this is the new segment. We're going to start with our first. This is not an anniversary. It's an introduction. It's the first one. So that means it is the exclusive. It's new. It's here. It's Pariah. Pariah, the wonderful first-person shooter, Unreal Engine 2 first-person shooter from 2005 that was released on the Xbox and PC that has incredible, if not somewhat undercooked first-person shooter action that is punctuated by moments in vehicles, not cars. They're not cars, Alan. That's the great thing about this. When you have a wonderful game like Pariah, which asks, of course, the question, am I the pariah? Who is the pariah? What's the point of this game? Who's sick? Because there's a sickness in this game, much like we have in the country today. There's a sickness going around, and one of these people in Pariah has the sickness, and maybe they both have the sickness, but one of them is the cure, and that person needs to be protected at all costs, whether it is with the gun that you shoot at the people trying to get the cure, trying to block the cure. And why would you want to do such a thing in a sci-fi action adventure game like Pariah? But
maybe they had a vested interest in not finding a cure.
Exactly, and that is a
financial benefit.
The financial benefit. I mean, that's the problem with all of these space outfits. They're always mining. They're always mining planets, and they're always exploiting the environment, much like the characters in Final Fantasy, the Spirits Within, who just go into the forest and make a mess out of all of Tonberry's potted plants. The corporation in Pariah makes a mess out of the interstellar effort to combat this horrible plague, this horrible sickness, and so Jack Mason must go out of his way to save the cure, who is a human woman or a humanoid woman, or perhaps some sort of combination of human and machine and antibody, all in one body.
What an interesting plot.
What an interesting plot. And what an interesting selection of vehicles you have. So here's an example of the kind of vehicles that you can expect to pilot in Pariah on the Xbox PC. These wonderful, of course, Unreal Engine 2 graphics on full display. You can see all these incredible details, from the wheels to Jack Mason to these pipes on the back here that could be they can either be thrusters or they can be exhaust pipes. We don't have that answer here because we don't have any footage of this particular vehicle, but we do have footage of another vehicle from Pariah. So let's take a look at the other vehicle that you can expect to see in 2005's Pariah.
Can't wait.
So of course, Alan, what we just looked at was the sort of Jeep, the Jeep-like vehicle that is so common in these first-person science fiction action games that do have vehicle segments. You see similar vehicles in the Halo series. You see similar vehicles all over the place. It's always a kind of Jeep-like thing that has a gun on top of it, and the gun just has infinite ammo. It doesn't overheat in Pariah, and it's hard to it's kind of hard if you take a closer look. You can kind of see the wonderful Unreal Engine 2 details here. All of these panels.
Is that real? Is that a photo or a game?
This is a exclusive EGI exclusive screenshot from Pariah from 2005, running on either PC or Xbox. Hard to tell which, but you can certainly tell that it is the Unreal Engine 2. The Unreal Engine 2, of course, that powers such wonderful games as Unreal
Pariah.
2.
And they never put the Jeep or vehicle or tank. They never say that in the title. They just call it Pariah, not.
Yeah, they don't call it Pariah. They don't call it Pariah bike and bike like tri-bike and Jeep. It could be a tri-bike. It could be a tri-wheel. We do see those tri-wheels around these days. Wonderful people who have a need for speed will get a tri-wheel. They'll go blasting down these narrow roads in beautiful northeast Los Angeles, California, and their tri-wheels. Sometimes there's sort of LED lights underneath them.
Need for Speed. That's not It's not on the list because those are car game.
Those are the two vehicles that we have to talk about with from Pariah. But of course, you can't talk about the vehicle sections, vehicle levels in Pariah without talking about vehicle levels in games like Project Snowblind. So I was unable to really get a good look at the tank here in Project Snowblind, so I outlined it with marker so you can see it a little bit better, Alan. If you want to take a closer look at that, what do you think about that? That's the vehicle, the tank from Project Snowblind.
Can't use these.
These are vehicles that you can't ride. But this is the vehicle.
You can ride the tank, but not the other thing you circled.
And it always isn't it always the thing with these tanks that it always needs a little bit of time to reload after you fire the main gun, but oftentimes there's a sub-weapon, which is usually a machine gun, that can be just shot at an infinite rate.
Wow, that is cool. And I miss you.
I can't believe that you could just... There might be a future where tanks have machine guns on them that never run out of ammunition.
I wish I had my access to one of these magical guns, and I could use it to blast away the disease that is stopping me from spending my time with you. I feel like the way I miss you so much. I feel like it's radicalized me in a certain sense of the word. I've been radicalized to spend time with you.
Tanks, if you got an incredible magic tank with infinite ammo that doesn't ever overheat, you could use it to either fight Tonberry or save Tonberry. It's not clear which one you would want to do. Although we are talking about Tonberry in the context of Spirits
If I had the tank, I'd use it to kill Tonberry. And Tonberry says,
you better have. I hope that you've spent a lot of time grinding and building up your level caps and have enough materia in your swords and or guns, because you are from Spirits Within, so you don't use swords. If you were from Advent Children, that would be a different thing, because if you were from Advent Children, then you would be the same people that we know and love from the Final Fantasy VII game, whether you're Sephiroth or Cloud or Tifa or Aerith or Eris or Rena. Or what's that? What's the cat? What's the cat?
I don't know the cat. If I don't give a I don't care about that. I'm from a more grounded reality that is the Spirits of Within universe, and we don't have swords or materia.
So if we're going to be talking about James Woods, we're talking about Steve Buscemi, so we're talking about Spirits Within. You can't talk about those wonderful two. These are method actors. They did everything they could to prepare for the part. Where they fight Tonberry?
I don't think so.
Why would you want to do that?
I don't.
He's small. He's sweet. He's got those little yellow bug eyes. He's Tonberry.
If I see another Tonberry, I'm getting in my space pod and zipping off to Genesis Project.
Back to you, Robby.
Back to you, Alan, and Genova, right?
It's been a while since I've seen the film. I kind of, that was a little bit of an improv I did. Where I said, well, I imagine that the James Wood character had some relationship to some sort of a Genesis project or something I didn't know about. So I just kind of made it up off the top of my head, and that was just a fun little improv.
They don't want to be seen in Final Fantasy Spirits Within, isn't that correct? They don't want to be seen by the creatures that are hunting them.
The spirits or the James Wood character or the Tonberry. Maybe the Tonberry doesn't want to be seen. That's why we don't ever get to lay eyes on a Tonberry in that film.
You really did your research on Tonberry, Alan. I really respect that.
Yes.
I was gonna. So let's go right into It's the Letters. We had one more slide for Advent Rising. There it is. It's the vehicle, the Jeep-like vehicle from Advent Rising. But honestly, I'm so excited to get to It's the Letters to see what you guys. These are actual questions, comments, statements at Electronic Game Information from our social media accounts on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us, ask us questions. We will try our best to read as many as we can online here on AdultSwim.com. Alan, why don't you take the first question?
Denoise asks, Alan, what part of Robby's body do you miss? And that's such a... Wow, what a good question. I don't know. I kind of miss the whole package because he's so great. Every part of you is interesting to me.
Well, there's a lot of parts that you can't see, Alan, that are really always a problem. So don't try to focus on the sort of the minutia. Don't try to look for the micro. Look for the macro. Take the big picture approach to most things, including our relationship. Well, I guess my answer then would be that I'm most curious about the parts I can't see, but of the parts I can see, I miss your strong arms or your mouth. Big Plague wants to know, is Golden Sun overrated or underrated? Big Plague, wonderful question. These are the kinds of questions that we do hope that we do get through our social media accounts on Electronic Game Information on AdultSwim.com. Is Golden Sun overrated or underrated? This is an incredible question because there is not a clear-cut answer. If it's overrated, that means it should be back relaunched as a new Golden Sun game on the Nintendo Switch, perhaps incorporating some of the wonderful techniques developed by Monolith Soft, the people behind the incredible Xenoblade Chronicles games, and who have lent their abilities, lent their expertise to games like Animal Crossing, and of course Dirge of Cerberus, Final Fantasy VII. If that's underrated. If it's overrated, then perhaps we could be looking at something more like a sort of reimagining of the series that would be a complete overhaul of what the essence of that turn-based fantasy game that has those it has that Shining Force quality to it, doesn't it, Alan?
Yes, it does have that quality.
So, and you want to know why? It's because it's made by the good people over at Camelot Software. Camelot Software, people behind the Shining Force games, sort of lost in the wilderness after the demise of the Sega platforms, but came back roaring back with Golden Sun, Dark Dawn, Golden Sun something or other on the Game Boy Advance, and these became staples of the Game Boy Advance turn-based JRPG library. But we have not seen a lot of them since that time period. Maybe one game on the Nintendo DS, Alan?
Yeah.
So, Alan, why don't you ask what other questions do we have?
Matt.Soza says simply Robby and then a little smiley, face. And I hear you and I see you and I feel the same way.
Okay. Well, that's a wonderful example of sometimes we get questions, sometimes we get statements. And
what better statement than just Robby?
Well, I think what better statement than Robby would be get in the vehicle. I'm in the vehicle. Come meet me. Take me away from this place. You're sick, and I'm the cure.
I'm the cure to you, right? Is that what you said? I'm gonna help that. I'm gonna help.
All
you.
right. So
I'm gonna cure
Fake Zen.
you.
This is a question
not
from
sick.
Fake Zen. Fake Zen. He's fixing Fake Zen for video games. Fake Zen asks for
Fake Zen
video. Is
asks
that
for video
Zen is that Zen from Half-Life?
I don't know.
Fake Zen asks for video games. How does it all end? Do we become video games, or do video games become us? And the answer is, of course, we become the video games. So thank you for your question, Fake Zen. Joe Botnick asks, "Hi, Robby and Alan. Why doesn't Robby get a VR headset and hang out with Alan in virtual reality?"
I've wondered. I've spent many sleepless nights wondering that. Why doesn't Robby get a VR headset and hang out with Alan in VR? I think that could solve some of our issues that we've been having as friends. Because I have quite an affection for VR. It's kind of better. It's here's hell. Mm-hmm. This is hell right here, where my
all the way down there.
This is reality, and this is virtual reality.
Well, where's heaven?
Heaven is between virtual reality and reality. Heaven, virtual reality. So the idea of hell is at the very bottom. Everyone knows that. Hell, reality. Heaven,
virtual
VR.
reality.
And if I could spend even a brief moment with Robby in VR, I can't tell you what a rush that would be for me. And I think I like to think of all the things we would do there.
Well, if I had a VR headset, you know what I'd love to do, Alan, is I would love to take a look inside of a game character like Tonberry and figure out why the hell are the Tonberries so damn tough. What's in there?
Yeah.
If it's just guts, I don't see what the big deal is. But it must be something else.
It would be very, very interesting to imagine spending any time with a Tonberry in VR. It would also be quite terrifying. If you and I were hanging out in VR and we were holding hands and maybe I could be small and you could hold me in your arms, and then we were having a great time, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a Tonberry shows up.
So wait, the picture is that we're hanging out, holding hands. The Tonberry shows up. Are we in the woods?
The thing about virtual reality that is so incredible is you could be anywhere, even places that don't really exist. So yes, we could be in the woods, and then the Tonberry would show up.
Well, I would hope that we wouldn't have made the same mistakes as Steve Buscemi, James Woods, Ving Rhames, and Alec Baldwin made in Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within.
There's only one thing to do.
Then we would be on the wrong side of Tonberry, but we want to be on the right side of Tonberry. With virtual reality is we want to be inside Tonberry.
Yes, and we don't want to be anywhere near this little guy when a Tonberry shows up. So I would recommend you and I either become Tonberries ourselves and join Tonberry, or try to escape. Maybe there's a flee button so we can avoid any sort of negative interaction with a Tonberry. We could also compliment the Tonberry on the lantern.
Good work.
Good work, Tonberry.
Robby,
the letters.
This is a question for me. This is a question, Robby. What is your favorite thing about Alan? Well, I must say that my favorite thing about Alan changes from day to day, but the thing that I really, really love about Alan, especially tonight, this special, wonderful electronic game information, is his beautifully realized report on Tonberry.
Thank you so much for the compliment, Robby. I can't tell you how good it feels to be complimented by you. It's like being splashed with bubbly water and you've been very thirsty.
Mad Bad and Dadrad asks, what is the game with the best name? And I must say that the game with the best name is, of course, Project Snowblind, which I think is a game title that really tells you everything you need to know when purchasing the game, except for the fact that you will potentially be piloting a tank with infinite ammo, plowing it through your enemies. Doesn't tell you that in the title, but Project Snowblind is the game with the best name.
And my pick would be Slambolt Scrapers.
So let's take a quick break, and we will be right back with the list. And we are back with the list, and this is a very special list because it is the first time that we've done a list that is inspired by a question from It's the Letters. This is inspired by Vague Plague's question about the Golden Sun games. And so we are going to be doing a list of all of the 6 or 7 out of 10 games from the makers of Golden Sun, Camelot Software. Camelot Software is, of course, the people behind Golden Sun, Shining Force, and a number of sort of off non. What do you call it? It's not the main. It's not the main Mario games. It's the Gaiden games. Are they the Gaiden games? Where is Camelot?
I don't know what the meaning of the question is, but I'm just happy to be on the list.
So they are. Let's just dive right into the list because this is a big list because there's a lot. I mean, Camelot Software has some 8 or 9 out of 10 games, but they also have a number of 6 or 7 out of 10 games. So let's dive right into that thing, starting with Shining Force. Shining Force Gaiden. Shining Force Gaiden is, of course, the wonderful Shining Force franchises shrunk down, brought to the Sega Game Gear, and I do believe the Master System. This was not necessarily the best Shining Force game in the bunch, but it definitely is a solid attempt at bringing the play mechanics that Camelot Software created for the Shining Force games into into the handheld world, which is Game Gear, which is the Sega Game Gear, which is obviously it runs the Mega Drive, not the Mega Drive, the Master System. It's like a Master System, but in your hand, it's the Sega Game Gear. It's Shining Force Gaiden, and of course, Shining Force, the Sword of Haya. It's Hajya. Shining Force Swords of Hajya. What does that mean, Alan?
What is Shining Force Hajya?
Sword of Haya?
Shining Force, the Sword of. It's probably a location, Hajya.
It's probably a Haya, but it sounds almost like it sounds like a number of locations in if you think about the Old Testament, the Talmud, if you think about all of these incredible stories that we've understood to be the foundations of the Abrahamic religions.
Right. I do
Haya
think about
sounds
that.
like it could be somewhere in the mix there. So this could
Absolutely.
be Shining Force's attempt at sort of bringing in some actual the good old-fashioned Abrahamic mythology into the world of Shining Force on the Sega Game Gear. Alan, did you own a Game Gear, Alan?
No, I didn't own any consoles or even handhelds until well after college, and my dad secretly bought a Nintendo Wii for himself.
Shining the Holy Ark is, of course, a good solid 7 out of 10 shining game for the Sega Saturn. Shining the Holy Ark. So we are back to thinking about these Old Testament era, these sort of ancient Middle Eastern religions and all of the baggage that comes with that. I mean,
and the Overlook Hotel.
And the Overlook Hotel.
You said this was a Shining game, and so
Shining Force.
Oh, Shining Force.
The Force in the Overlook Hotel, it can't be questioned.
So I'm confused now. This is what I thought. It's about the scary hotel and the cold man.
No, this is about a group of adventurers exploring each other's friendships through turn-based battles on grid-based turn-based battles.
Yes, that's interesting. I wish I could explore our friendship in turn-based sort of a game.
So Shining. Some people might say that Shining Force, Shining the Holy Ark, is 8 out of 10 game, but they would be incorrect. It is a solid 7 out of 10 game, which ain't bad for one of these Shining Force mainline story. The stories connect.
This is DLC. Robby, what the heck is this list?
This is all of the Camelot games that are 6 or 7 out of 10 games. So the Golden Sun games aren't going to be on this because I think most people would agree that those are 8 out of 10 games.
God, yeah, yes, it is definitely.
And we've been doing a lot of 6 or 7 out of 10 games on the list.
Yes, usually the list is bad games that Robbie has
6
some
or
sort
7
of
out of 10 ain't bad. That's a high D or a low C. So there's some quality to be explored in.
Yes, the list is normally a mediocre game that has a lot of heart that nobody played.
So Camelot Games also responsible for Mario Golf on the Nintendo Yeah, so Mario Golf, Mario Tennis,
It's a Nintendo game.
Mario
Camelot
Mario
didn't
Golf
make- no,
Toadstool
Nintendo-
Tour.
These are Nintendo games, Robbie. They're not on the list. These are
they are on the list. These are
But you're
Camelot
doing-
software developed games, and
Nintendo does all the
fucking the hell
Nintendo
out of me
games.
because these games are so fun and they're so addictive, but sometimes they lack the depth. So the question I think is still open as to whether or not they're on the list.
Got it. I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna let's put a pike in that and bring it back to of course Shining Force, Shining Wisdom, Shining Force and Shining Wisdom, which of course is a barely makes it I think into the 6 out of 10 category on the Sega Saturn. It's an action RPG for the Sega Saturn that takes the Shining franchise.
I love The Shining. All work and no play makes Alan want to hang out with Robbie.
Shining. Let's so if I break them down, so Mario Golf on the Nintendo 64, not on the list. Mario Golf on the Game Boy Color, that's on the list.
Okay, I don't understand this list.
Neither of the Mario Tennis games from the year 2000 are on the list.
This is one of those confusing lists I'm never gonna get.
But Mario Golf for the Game Boy Advance might be on the list.
I just love watching you do the list.
Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. It's on the list.
Cool.
Mario Tennis Power Tour.
It's not on the list.
Not on the list.
Got it. There's a rhythm.
So I think that clears up which of those non-mainline Mario games are on the list or not.
Mainline Mario games.
Mainline. That's the non-main line.
So I guess I'm trying to just figure this out. What I've learned is Nintendo makes mainline Mario games and then they outsource little
sports
games
to Camelot software.
Because they know sports.
Right.
Mario
and Camelot is still around. Alan?
What about when Mario goes to the Olympics with Sonic? Did you mention this?
These are not Camelot games.
I don't understand them.
So Camelot is as much of a place as it is a state of mind.
Yes.
It's as much of a reflection of who we are as it is of who we want to be. Much like the Olympics.
And they are canceled.
So
just like E3.
Unfortunately, E3 is canceled. The Olympics are canceled. Comic-Con's canceled.
Robbie, they should do the Olympics this year in the Mario games. They should have they should just do it that way and broadcast that on TV the way they normally do the regular Olympics. And I think that would be fun for people. I think you would get a kick out of that, wouldn't you?
Well, I don't know about all of that, Alan, but I will say that the final game on tonight's list is going to cause some controversy. People are going to start kicking up dust and stomping their feet and clapping their hands in anger at Shining Force CD for the Sega CD. It is Shining Force. It is the classic Shining Force franchise in its formidable style. It's hard to break a Shining Force game, but you can make an underwhelming Shining Force game, and that's Shining Force CD on the Sega CD, and that was the list.
What a way to end the list.
So this is the part of the show where me and Alan talk about how we thought the show went. Alan, how did you think the show went?
If I'm being honest, do you want me to be honest?
I do want you to be honest because it's tough because you don't get a bird's eye view of these things. You want to make sure you are realistic with your expectations, and if there's been an issue that you bring it up at this time because this is the time to do that.
If I'm being honest, the experience of being in the episode was difficult, mostly because the physical distance is I actually experience physical distance from you as physical pain and an irritation of the skin, and it hurts. So in that respect, I don't know how I feel about this episode, but from taking a step back, a bird's eye view of the episode.
Yeah, you got to take a bird's eye view. Imagine that you're up there, if you're a flying Tonberry up there watching the show as it is executed. You're this incredible creature who is normally on the ground, but given life, a life that you've never thought was possible with the advent of wings. You're sort of the advent child in a way. You're the flying Tonberry. You're looking down on electronic gaming information on AdultSwim.com. What do you see?
If it were possible to be a flying Tonberry looking down on the episode, I would probably have to rate it as probably the top tier, maybe the top episode of all time, just because it was so much fun.
We did have an incredible episode, Alan. We did cover an incredible amount of ground. We talked about Tonberry. We talked about a Final Fantasy movie that came out when I was at a very sensitive time in my life because I had just gotten my wisdom teeth pulled out.
That'll make anyone raw. And all the vehicles we talked about.
Vehicles we talked about. I apologize to Pico Interactive, and I also asked Night Dive to buy Pico Interactive, and I think that was a big step for me because I've never asked on electronic gaming information. I've never asked a company to buy another company, but I do think that it makes the most sense.
Well, you're smart about this sort of stuff, and you have a mind for business. So if they're watching, do it. Take his advice, and
because
if he tells you to buy a stock, you buy it.
Synergistic relationship between these two companies that needs to be exploited immediately, especially as we sort of take a look into the near future. We look down the pipe, we look down the forest path, then the Tonberry which is this recession is coming down the path, and it looks upset because we just messed up all of its potted plants.
Yes.
So that was electronic game information. Thank you for joining us. We will be back for our final week of Quarant-Egi next week. Please send us your letters. Please send us your electronic game information inspired arts. We'll have more wonderful discussions like the discussions you saw tonight. And we'll be so excited when you rejoin us again on Tuesday and Thursday of next week. Good night. Good night, Alan.
Oh, good night, Robby. I love you.